Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight we are on episode, I think it's 353 here tonight. We're starting to get a little long in the tooth, I guess, but tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the methodology of research. Now, Ben and I, we tend to maybe overindulge in this subject a little too much. We might go to the extremes when we're trying to do some research, but that's just because we like to be incredibly thorough. However, we do kind of follow a similar methodology regardless of what we're researching. You don't necessarily have to take it to the painstaking levels that we do.
Don't tell people that.
Well, I mean, it's your choice. But this is kind of your topic here, Ben, so I'm going to let you kind of bring into it, and I will add in where I can.
Yeah, so the basic thought is, like, how do we make the decision of what we buy? Like, there's so much out there. And I think that's a really big thing to think about. Like, when you go on and you want a new stove or a new boat or a new car or any of these things that you want, especially for bushcrafting, how do you decide what you want? And I think there's a handful of key components to this, that how I do my research, that I think might be useful to a few people. And so I think it starts off with identifying a need. And so
same first point I had. Great minds think alike.
Is a lot of people see something and say, "Oh, I need that," when they don't. So sitting down, and when you see something you want, try to sit down and say, why do I need it? Or what is my intent? And how is this going to improve my life over what I have already? And if this improvement isn't going to be significant, you probably either don't really need it or don't truly want it, or you shouldn't really want it. You may still want it,
But I mean, that is still a legitimate thing. If you just want something for the sake of wanting something, we do a lot of research on things like that. And generally, at the end of all of this, which I'm sure Ben will come loop back to, there's still room to do something like that, providing it makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, identifying the needs. So, a good example, this is you're doing a lot of background woods camping, and you realize that other people are using chairs, and you're like, I would love a chair. So the need is a place to sit down. You're finding that the rocks are uncomfortable. You don't always find a stump you want. You can't really sit on the right side of the fire. The wind is always blowing. So a comfortable seat makes a big difference in your trip. So that's your need. You identified a need. Now, the next thing is identifying what that need needs to encompass. What's the scope? Is that your next thing?
I was going to say, very close. I can go with scope. Scope works.
So, yeah. And I'll stick with the chair. It could be anything, but how much does it have to weigh? How much does it need to carry? So both of these are two things. Like, I want, generally you're going to say, well, I want the lightest chair that can carry the most weight. And you realize, well, that's not going to happen.
Well, it can, but now it comes down to, what is your budget for this?
Yeah. But there's a few other things. What comfort features do you want? Do you need a back? Is a stool good enough? Do you need armrests? Does you need a spot to hold your drink? Do you want a spot you can put your keys, your phone, things like that? Does it need footrests? Like, what functions or what features do you need? Accessories, or what does it need to have for this to actually be an improvement over what you already have? So you kind of have to write these down. And that's what I think is real important. Write those features down. And then when you do your research, you may decide you need to add a few to it as you discover things that didn't exist before. Heated seats, insulation, things like that might end up on that list, but that's the thing you want to add.
It's funny enough, I had 2 points here. One was brainstorming and storyboarding, and I just had them there as, how am I going to fit them in? Good job, Ben.
Yeah. So now you've identified your need, that I need a seat, and then this is the things that it needs to have, and then you start looking for things, and oftentimes these go hand in hand. You've seen something on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, on one of these social media programs. They're trying to sell you something. And we've all done it. We've all seen something and said, hey, I didn't even know I needed that, but now I do.
And funny enough, this is leading literally to my next thing, which is gather sources. So I'm just
Yeah.
putting a name to it. You keep on rolling.
So, but you can do that and then start looking into, what are these people saying? What are the reviews? Is it useful? So the social media, the resources, and also buddies. Like, how many times have you gone camping with somebody and they had like a wicked agua cannon saw, and you decide, I need one of those saws?
Way to rub it in, Ben.
Right? I've seen them online. I've seen them, but then when I finally got a chance to physically handle it, I bought one, and then everyone that's ever borrowed mine has bought one since, right?
No, 100%. And just to throw my couple 2 cents in there, because that was pretty much perfect, was when it comes to reviews, the only real note I had in there is look at the professional as well as the user votes. And keep in mind, you're going to have two extremes on that. You kind of got to look at the bell curve and see where everything kind of falls in the middle. So the professionals are really going to push it hard or really hate it hard. The users may give you a little bit more of a berth on good and bad, but they might not talk about all the features. So you really do got to kind of hit both sides and then make educated decisions. Like I said, maybe not the extreme, not the most negative, because there's always going to be somebody that gets something and they're going to hate it. Maybe not because of the product's fault. And I don't know how to put that gently, but you know what? Could be user error. You know what I mean? And they're complaining about something that they're trying to use inappropriately. And then there's going to be people that are just going to rate it great simply because they bought it and something popped up on Amazon or whatever the website was and say, hey, can you rate this right now? And they go, oh yeah, I can click 5 stars. It's great, and send it off. So you are going to get those two extremes that don't really give you a picture. Just keep that in mind.
I have an example that is really useful too when you look at people who are reviewing something, and I when I'm talking to my wife, I call it turkey bacon. And if you've ever had turkey bacon, it's not bad. But if you've ever had bacon, turkey bacon is not bacon. And the second you tell someone, "Oh, I'm going to give you some turkey bacon," they think bacon, and they're disappointed. Like, you
exactly.
cannot be happy. So a lot of times when people get things, their expectations are here, and the reality should have been here, and then they will downgrade something because they thought it was going to do this, this, and this, although it wasn't even advertised. They just assumed, and then when they got it, they were like, "Ah, shit, it just wasn't what I thought. It was good. It was an okay product, but it just, I had my hopes set high." So you have to consider that when you're looking into this stuff. But yeah, you want to look into, does anyone have it? Reach out on social media too. Like, when I've researched products, I've often reached out to people who may have used it or have used it and asked questions. And I think that's a really important thing. Reading the reviews on the sites, especially, Amazon is a good place for that, but there's others. And I think this is where you really get into using the internet. And look up each of the products, find out the reviews, but then go into your list, the one you started with, and start seeing, did it check off all the needs? Does it have all the features? What features is it missing? And then, for me, cost is a big one.
Oh, 100%. Once again, I'm just going to add in a little bit before we gloss past it. When you're looking at reviews, something I had noted on here too, don't overlook sites like Reddit. Not that we have any affiliation with Reddit, but sites like that are community forums. Sometimes they'll talk about a product and give you a lot more information than just Joe Blow that's doing his YouTube review. You know what I mean? It's one of the main reasons that Ben and I really limit our YouTube reviews. We don't just want to be Joe Blow doing, here's product A, we think it's great. You know what I mean? If we're going to review something, we want to test it and really use it and give a good opinion on it. People in web forums like Reddit or just community forums in general, they'll usually give more input to answer specific questions or more honest reviewing on it. Or at least that's what I've found. This isn't, fact. This is just my opinion.
Well, and a good example, I think we mentioned on the show in the past. Do you remember when I got my boat, my inflatable canoe?
Yep.
Kayak? I did all the research. I did all this stuff and all that. And I talked to a bunch of people, and I found out the things that people liked about each of the products and disliked. And I put them in a chart, and there's still an Excel chart somewhere. And I even shared it with a few people that broke down all the all the kayaks that I had looked like kayak, canoe, inflatable
I still have
boats.
that. Yeah.
And it's quite thorough.
It was. It was actually incredibly detailed. I did sub research on it based on your primary research.
And I listed like weight ratings, all the dimensions, material types, construction methods, the types of valves. Maybe I'm not sure on that one.
Yep,
A whole
you
bunch
did mention valves.
right there, and all this other stuff. And I did some research, and there was really big brands that are really popular and really well liked. But I found one of the things was they were expensive. They were like multiples of some of the competition, like 5 and 6 times as expensive. And for me, like I understand, especially if I was running an outfitting group and I'm running hundreds of people through. Yeah, don't take the risk. Buy buy the Seagull, because can't go wrong.
No, 100%. And there is something about brand naming. Brands that have been around for a long time tend to be around for a long time because of reasons. Now, that's not necessarily saying that there aren't cheaper alternatives, like Ben was saying. And there's some that people will say, oh, just as good as. That's generally under, limited use. You know what I mean? Sometimes with these heavier brand names, it's just that. They can take a little heavier abuse. Food for thought.
And even if they fail at the same point, generally the manufacturer is going to stand behind them a little bit better. So when they do fail, they will help you replace or repair, and the customer service will be better for those. So it is definitely something to consider when you're looking at this stuff. The brand name has value in the fact that generally better customer service, better warranty, probably parts and accessories for it will exist for much longer, and there'll also be a bigger market for support. And this is everything down to your $15 stove to your $150,000 vehicle. This same thing works because like you can buy the BR 2000 little tiny stove.
Oh yeah, yep.
Is it BR 2000?
It's the WL is the one I was thinking, the Whisper Light, but
but I'm talking about the really tiny one. The BRS, the little BRS is like 15 grams. It's the lightest stove you can buy.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. It's a tiny little BRS 3000. 3000T.
Poplar stove does what it does very well. It can't hold very much weight, so don't put a big pot on it. It literally weighs grams. And then you can compare that to, say, your MSR Whisper Light, which is like $150, where the BSR 3000, I think you can pick up
$22. Just looked at it on Amazon.
Yeah. It's been selling for like $15 in the not too long. Maybe just inflation's got it to that point. But again, the point I got is it's a cheap stove. It works very well. It's very light. But if it breaks, you're probably just going to buy a new one. You're
Absolutely.
Just not, right?
And it doesn't have the performance of the Whisper Light does either. Like, you know what I mean? No. You are getting a little bit more for some of your money. One quick comment here from the side, just before we move on, because it had to do with reviews. Trevor85. Too many people receive the product and give it a 5 stars just by looking at it before even using it. Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of what we were hinting at without being too aggressive about it.
Well, and honestly, like, no offense to any organization, but even like Amazon, when you receive something, and Alibaba does the same thing, and AliExpress and all this, you receive it, they immediately want a review. They want you to give them a 5 star, because the more 5 stars they get, the more they sell that product. And so I understand where they're coming from, which with the pressure to answer it then is hard to give a good review. It'd be great if they could reach out to you 6 months in and say, did you use it? What was it like?
Even 30 days would be reasonable for most things. Tents, I could see being a little longer, you know what I mean? But
yeah. But I've bought stuff and not been able to use it for 6-7 months because it was a good sale.
Oh, absolutely. I buy all kinds of stuff during the winter that I'm still planning to use in the summer.
Yeah. So sometimes you get stuff and it's 6 months, even a year before you could say I can give it an honest review. So it is just the nature of the beast, and it's not their fault. They have good reason for what they're doing, but it does leave, unfortunately, a little bit of a sore spot in people's mouths when they think about it. Like, oh, hey, I had 500 5-star reviews. I got it and it fell apart within the first week. Like, that's not.
Yeah, but how long was it between when they got the product and those reviews went up?
Yeah.
Kind of bringing her back here because I do notice we're creeping up on 15 minutes and we're only about halfway through according to my notes. I don't know where Ben is. But anyway, what Ben was talking about was evaluating the key features of whatever it is you're looking for. Try to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, keep on rowing, man.
And what I found is you're rarely going to find something that meets all the criteria you want, but you're looking for the ones. And then you kind of look at, okay, say there's one that has absolutely everything, but the price is ridiculously high. And then you look at the next one. It's missing a couple of features, but the price is, say, half as much. You have to look, is that extra feature worth it? Or can I gain that extra feature through some other means that would be equivalent or better? And so with that, there's some functions you can buy something to go with it that could provide that function that's just different. So hard to cover all instances of that, but just take a look at it. Do I need the function or can I get the function in different ways?
And just while we're on the topic of like specs and specifications and things like that, why do specs matter more than marketing? So just listening to somebody telling you, oh, this tent is stormproof. Well, it may be listed as stormproof, but if you look at the actual hydrostatic rating on it, that tells you how stormproof. So by looking at the specific specs, it's better comparing apples to apples because you could get 5 different tents in this instance that all say stormproof, and they're all going to be rated different. You know what I mean? So instead, break it down into something that's, more comparable right across the board. Sleeping bags, another great one. This is an ultralight sleeping bag. Okay, but if you look at the fill power it has, that's going to tell you how warm and how heavy it actually is, as well as compactability and a few other things.
And this is true. Like, specs really do matter. But one of the problems with specs is they're hard to sometimes make real. You know what I mean? You can look at 2 sleeping bags and they both say, the dimension is for 7 foot. But when you lay them side by side, you kind of realize one's a better 7 foot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it a European 7 foot or an American 7 foot? Same as clothing.
Is it 7 foot on the inside or 7 foot on the outside? Is it about 7 feet or is it at least 7 feet?
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I try to look it down. If you can find it on the product, like an overall length and width will help a little bit, but still that doesn't clear up all the confusion because now it's like they could be stitched different. 2 exactly same width sleeping bags may still fit different being inside them simply on how they orient the seams and things like that. Or if there's features like draft tubes that take up a little bit more. So you can try to limit it as much as possible, realizing there's still going to be a little bit of flux.
Well, here's a good example too. Take cars, automobiles. You can go out and find the leg room on 4 different trucks or cars. And you look at it and say, okay, this one has the most leg room. But if you go out and sit in it and move the front seat and the back seat around and do all the things to it, you might realize, wait a second, although in paper, this has the most, you don't know what the conditions of that always is. Like, they don't measure rear seat with the front seat always to its full back. Is it in the center? Is it full forward? Because if it's full forward, that's, nobody can drive that way. I can. So I did this recently. I've been looking at some vehicles just out of curiosity, and I've sat in some, and I found that just by the specs, when I sat in a vehicle, the feel was completely different. And I didn't necessarily, when I realized, I was like, hey, that spec isn't giving me an honest answer to what I needed to know. And this is the other thing, where possible, and it's a world of online right now, where possible, if you can, get your hands on the physical product. And that's where brick and mortar stores generally win. And unfortunately, like, they don't have the variety. So recently I needed a new pair of boots for my motorcycle. And I went to a lot of the dealerships around here. I had 2 or 3 boots I really had a lot of interest in. And I was unfortunate that I couldn't find some of the boots that I really wanted to buy. They just aren't sold in stores here. And the ones that I could find were often the wrong sizes and stuff like that. But I was able to try shoes with their boots with the same brand, but maybe a just different style or different level. and I was able to try them on, so I got an idea what foot size I should get. I got a few other pieces of information, but then I ended up buying online, and I really wish I could have bought in a store. It's just the effort wasn't there, and that's where I came down to price. This is the next thing. Where do I buy it? Like, you decided what product you want. Where do you buy it? And this, I mean, Google search the name and see how many things places show up, and you're going to find it. Sometimes something can vary by 25 to 50%, depending on where you're buying it.
Very much so. And sometimes it's worth paying a tiny bit more for a better return policy, which was the point I was going to make on this. If you're going to
Oh
purchase
yeah,
online, and I mean, we purchase tons of stuff online. Don't get me wrong, we're advocates for it. But I always try to look to see what the return policy is, especially if I'm not being able to, see it in store, put hands on it. Just like Ben said, if you do get it, at least then you can send it back if it ends up not meeting the needs that you're looking at. And I guess the only other thing that I had on there was I also have gone in and looked at brand names just to look at build quality and stuff like that before buying something different but with the same brand name.
yeah,
Hammocks and stuff like that. Like, look at the stitch, seam strength, how they double sew things, or if they don't, if the quality's good on the stitch, because generally that's going to track through most of their stuff, because all these things will come out of the same machines with different settings. You know what I mean? A lot of times Monday will be one tent, Tuesday will be another tent, Wednesday will be a third tent. Very rarely do they set one of these tents up one of these machines up just to make one specific tent indefinitely,
yeah,
because they'd lose so much money it wouldn't be funny trying to keep the upkeep on these machines just based on that one product.
yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of the products. I have bought products from companies that I probably would have rather not because of the return policy. Um, I bought, I don't know if you remember, I bought 2 motorcycles off Amazon one time.
Yep.
And I could have bought it directly from the manufacturer, and they sold through Amazon. But honestly, the price difference was only 30 or 40 bucks. And you're buying a whole motorcycle. Like, who cares with 30 bucks? But I bought through Amazon because I figured if I had issues, I felt like Amazon, and I mean, I know they're a big company, and they're not necessarily always out there for you, but Amazon left me feeling that if I had issues, they'd probably, support me and help me out with this. And I had no issues. The company worked out very well for me, and I'm very happy with my purchase. And, the issues I've had, I went in eyes wide, you know what I mean? So, but that is definitely it. Like, choosing a reputable dealer, and also, like, where possible, buy local. I highly recommend that. It's just, it isn't always. Like, I would have bought a Yamaha motorcycle if it wasn't 4 times more expensive than the one I bought. You know what I mean? Like,
I have one little thing here, and I'm going to get your thoughts
yeah,
on this. It's just kind of a final thought I had on this. Before making a final purchase, look at failure patterns all across the sources that you've been looking at so far. And I just kind of highlighted at the end, but if you're seeing a common occurrence of something failing across multiple sources, that's something worth keeping in mind. If the professionals complain about it and the users don't, might be to use, kind of, you know what I mean? If the users are complaining about something the professionals don't, well, you know what, could still be a skewed thing. But if everywhere you're looking, they're always complaining about the same thing, and I'm thinking one specific sleeping bag I was looking at, didn't matter where I went, and looked up reviews on it, somewhere in the review, be it a good review or bad review, they would always mention the zipper being kind of annoying. And if
yeah,
everybody agrees that the zipper's probably annoying, that's something you're probably going to expect when you buy that. So throw that into the back of your mind. And if you're getting it for a wicked price, just realize every time you're pulling that zipper up, you're probably going to be fighting it. How much is that worth to you? Because it sounds silly, but that comes back to how often are you going to use this? If it's just a tent you plan on using once a year, maybe it's not a problem. If it's a sleeping bag you're planning on using 3 times a week for this foreseeable season, that can probably start getting annoying.
yeah. No, definitely. And if there is problems, look at what the fixes are. Like, if with the zipper, it may just be you have to lubricate the zipper, or maybe there's, I've seen one where you had to actually, like, they put them in a pair of pliers and they just squeezed them because they weren't tight enough.
And that's the
like
thing.
that.
There may be user fixes available that are really cost effective and real simple that fixes a problem. You know what I mean? And if you have a piece of gear and you have a recurring problem, if you haven't already, start hitting the community forums to see if other people have had this problem
Yeah.
and have fixed it. I mean, learning to use Google really is kind of, and I say Google, but any search engine, using the internet, learning how to use the internet and find information appropriately. It is really your friend for a ton of troubleshooting stuff. But that's a tangent for another day.
100%. So I think the big thing is really identifying your need, identifying what features you want to complete, to get the best out of that need, and then finding what options are there. And then really, like, I highly recommend, and we didn't talk a ton about this, look for aftermarket equivalents. And see, like, what is the difference? And honestly, if the difference is not very much, definitely go with the bigger brand name or something. But in some cases, I have definitely bought the no name because the savings were that significant. And oftentimes, if I'm not sure it's something I even need, I'll buy it that way, test it out, and then if I don't like it, I'm only out a fraction of what I would have if I bought the name brand one.
Absolutely. And a good one to think on that one that you have some experience with and I'm learning about is like the diesel heaters. If you're just looking for something that turns on and gets warm, you can pretty much buy any of them because they all function essentially the same. But if you want something that's going to be easy to run, now you may want to look at some stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, we generally say we don't want to buy the most. This is our theory at house. We don't necessarily have to buy the best. I don't need a Rolls Royce car. But maybe Rolls Royce isn't the best. But I also don't want the worst. You know what I mean? Like, I do not want the Euro?
Have you ever owned a Lada? Because that's what's coming to mind for me. Not that it was a bad car, but man, she was bare bones basic.
So oftentimes we look middle of the road or slightly better. Like, you can find that mid-tier brand. It's not necessarily the top of the line, but it's definitely not the worst, And if you think about it, like with cars, to me, when I think of things like that, you got your Chevs and your Fords, always been solid, pretty well, middle of the road, dependable vehicles, right? And then, you got some of your luxury brands, well, that's always a lot more expensive. And are you getting your money's worth? And for some people, absolutely, that's what they need. And then there's times when, and I hate to say it, like, I think Dodge moves around, but oftentimes Dodge trucks weren't known to be the best.
There's a Dodge guy out there right now that you just made mad. You know that, right?
I know I did, but I mean, I wish I could say different, but I had a Dodge Dart. It was the worst thing I think I've ever owned.
I've had 2 Dodge trucks. One was okay, one was not. So I will stay at the middle of the road for right now.
But and what I will say is, with phones, cars, and anything, it's hard to get something that's truly bad. It's just in comparison to others, the problems are less. And every brand has its issues. And maybe my car was one of those. Like recently, Ford and Toyota have had engine problems because of design. And
well, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. And we're kind of skipping off, but it has a point here. The 3.2 turbo fuel injection that's in the Rangers, like mine. Great motor. They've been doing it for ages, but where it's GDI, they're starting to carbon the valves. You know what I mean? So around the 150,000 kilometer mark, I got to start looking at getting that thing pulled apart and walnut blasted. That's silly, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And yes, I know there's catch cans and nonsense like that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're going to have to clean the valves because no fuel goes over it. And, there's a amount of reasons they did that. It's just one of the key specs or features I wish I had looked at a little more before grabbing onto this one.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this is the things you want to look into. And I mean, I'm not bashing any one particular brand of this, but you don't have to buy the best. You definitely don't want to buy the worst. But when I got into hammocking, this is a good example. I bought a more or less generic first hammock. And I have since bought really good hammocks, don't get me wrong. And there's better hammocks I'd love to own just to see what the difference is. Never buy more than you can afford. And this is a general rule. If you buy something, this was something somebody told me one time, if you can't afford to lose it, you probably shouldn't have bought it in the first place.
Yeah. It's kind of like lending money. If you can't afford to lose it, don't lend it.
Yeah. So, and somebody said this about a luxury car. So if you go out and buy like a top of the line Lamborghini, and then you're afraid to use it because if it broke, you couldn't afford to fix it, and you couldn't afford to replace it, then you probably don't need a Lamborghini. You could go out and buy a decent race, car. Like,
Is this based on the story about the guy there 2 months ago?
no.
Okay, so there was a fella, European country, can't remember, somewhere west anyway. He saved up his entire life to buy a Lamborghini. And I mean, we're talking 30 plus years this man saved up. It was his dream. He bought one, rode it out of the dealership, got something like an hour up the road, and it burnt.
Ooh, no. That's horrible. No,
Anyway, that's the thing that's poking to mind. Like, he really couldn't afford. He could afford it because he saved up all that time, but like when it was gone, it was gone.
Yeah. No. I mean, sometimes I look at like vehicles. That's a good example of it because I think that's a big purchase, and people like generally don't. A lot of people they say spend as much as you can afford, and I think that's a good statement because then you'll probably get the longest you can get out of it. So you don't necessarily go out and buy a $3,000 vehicle if you can afford a $20,000 or $100,000 vehicle, because honestly, you're going to have to work to keep that vehicle running most likely. And I've seen people have really good luck with that. But if you spend a couple extra grand, it'd probably be good. But if you could afford 100,000, and you can, what if you bought a $45,000 vehicle, and then if something happened, you could just go buy another one. Like if worst case came, you could. It would suck. It would be horrible. The same thing with a stove. Like, yeah, you could go out and buy a $5,000 stove to go camping. But if you buy a $500 one, you could buy 10 if you needed to, which sometimes maybe a second one would be useful.
And something we haven't talked about all this time, but matters a lot? Actually look at warranties. There is a lot of stuff out there that has good or better warranties.
We talked about customer support and
yeah.
Stuff like that. So we did bring it up.
But understand the warranty, I guess, is the follow-up to that. Understand what's covered and what's not, and what's normal use, what's not normal use. Actually read the warranty, because a lot of times when you see lifetime warranty, it's not really lifetime warranty.
No, and a lot of stuff you can buy an extra warranty. But if you look at it sometimes, like I looked at an electronic device the other day I was going to buy, and the warranty through Amazon was like 30% of the cost. It wasn't an expensive item. And I was like, at that price, no, I'll just buy it. If it fails, hey, I probably wouldn't get that again because it failed. I'll go with something slightly different. But at that price, I'm willing to take the risk. But if it was only $1 or $2, yeah, frig, what am I losing? So you really want to think about that. Like car warranties, you can spend $2, $3, $4 grand. And it's generally considered a sucker's bet. Most people don't use it. But I talked to a guy this week. He said within the first couple of months, because he got 3 of the tires replaced for whatever reason, he had some maintenance done to it, routine. He said he easily made his money back on the warranty. He said best decision he ever made.
The extended warranty on the drone. I have more than paid for the warranty because I've claimed the replacement one 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So
you got mine. I didn't even ever get mine replaced. I did call about a battery I lost.
Well, I can't remember what it was. The first one, it had a weird issue. The second one had a compass problem. I mean, I kept claiming it. You know what I mean?
But the drones are a great example of all this. Like we did our research. We decided what did we want, what features. You wanted less than 250 grams, so you could fly it without licenses and all this. Is there a warranty to it? Does it have the features? It was hard to beat DJI for cost and capability, right?
100%. And Steve makes a good point here. He says he tries to get all his gear originally cheap or free. If he finds something useful, then he decides if he wants to purchase a newer, higher quality version. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I know we've done that. We have bought things that are maybe cheaper to see if the purpose of it suits our needs. And then we can decide if we want to throw more money at it.
My first test of a hammock was literally a $5 tarp that I strung up onto 2 ends. Also, Facebook Marketplace and similar type things, Craigslist, whatever you buy your used stuff from. I often buy through that, but certain things I don't like buying used. You know, my helmet, my boots, definitely don't like buying those used. You know, my face is going to be stuck in that for a long time, and feet are filthy. So
I
there's
know
a
I've
reason.
sweat in mine a lot. We have Bushman 32 Bushcraft living in 97. Hello from Kentucky. Well, hello there. Welcome to the show. We're just actually finishing up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall, folks, I know we kind of rambled on here at the end, but it all kind of linked back into it. Like Ben started there, just define the need, gather your sources, evaluate any specifications or things that matter to you. Then, I mean, weigh your options. How much can you afford and how much are you willing to pay for it? The features that you're looking for. And then, like we said at the end, just watch your failure patterns and warranties and things like that.
And in some cases, we just buy it because we want to test it. Honestly, we bought
And
stuff
that is legit. If you have the money and you're just like, I got $100 burning a hole in my pocket and I want to test this thing, as long as you're willing to throw that money at that and it causes you no ill effect, by all means, you can be the one that tests it for the person that, you know, that $100 might really matter. That might be the difference between they're going to spend it on a better sleeping bag or get whatever it is that you just reviewed because they think it's filling a need for them.
Yeah. Really good for outdoor spots. Both REI in the States and Mech here in Canada. They're similar companies, not the same by any means, but they both will rebuy products that you bought from them and resell it. So you don't even have to worry about it. If you have like a pair of shoes you didn't overly like, you can bring them back and say, hey, I used them for 2 or 3 trips. I didn't like it. They'll just take it back and resell it for you, basically. I don't know the process. I've never done it, but I've bought from that. I've gone in and got chairs and stuff that were there and never used or rarely used or minor damage or something. Or in one case, I think they misunderstood the product and returned it for an invalid reason, honestly. But
it happens. Like we said, we got those extremes, right? Sometimes you can benefit from that. I love a good open box special. This isn't what I wanted. It's because it's not what you thought it was.
Yes. You read because they do the write-ups on him. It's really interesting. Like, I don't think he knew what he was doing.
Nope.
Anyways, yeah, get out there, try some stuff out, see where you can, physically touch it when you can, and if not, try to find somewhere that if you buy it and it's really not what you want, and I've done it, and return it. And I've bought products, tried them out a bit of times, like this is absolutely not what I hoped it would be, and returned it.
Oh, Amazon's great for that. Couple of
Costco's good.
Excuse me. Carving kits. Things like that. Got them, didn't really use them for carving, but just held them in my hand and realized, I don't like the way this feels in my hand at all, and straight back it goes.
Yeah, this is not what I thought it would be.
No. And I mean, we're all guilty of it. Just expect it.
Anyways, should let you guys go, I guess.
Yeah, we're on 40 minutes. You guys have a good night. I guess night here, evening in Ben's neck of the woods. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Hopefully new topic. Later, folks.
Later.